Well, a very good morning to you and welcome to another Andrew Eborn, Ian Simon show. Anagram lovers everywhere, looking forward to these suggestions. I thought it'd be a nice easy one for you, but so far nobody's got it right. How extraordinary. Well, those of you who joined us yesterday, thank you so much. We went on a little walk to the zoo and managed to see some of the people there. And the exciting thing is that what happened is that many people, whilst the zoo was open, and you all came with me virtually, because again, when I walked around the zoo, it was virtually just me. A few little ones, to be fair, though, and I think because the schools are still technically in session, what happens is that many people were working around the basis that they weren't going to go to the zoo, they'd stay at home working, but we had a few people, and that was a joy. But in terms of crowds in London, everywhere I go, it's probably to do with me and nobody else, but everywhere I go is deserted. It's been deserted in central London, it's been deserted down on the seaside. When I went to the seaside, took you with me at the weekend, and I'm delighted that all the way in Japan is my very good friend Hide. How are you, Hide? Lovely to see you this morning. You're joining me, Andrew Eborn, live at 5 here in the UK. I know it's the end of your day, or end of your working day in London, but he is my very good friend who I've known for years. He's been on the programme talking about life in Japan and also talking about his fantastic work that he's doing, educating a whole new generation. I've known Hide for many years when he's worked as an executive in a number of media companies. We've had the real pleasure of working on several really exciting projects, and he's now a brilliant teacher, bringing a whole new class of people into their careers, kick-starting that. And I tell you what's really wonderful is when you have a great teacher, enthusiasm is so infectious. And I think it's those great teachers who we suddenly appreciate in this new age as we look back and see what's happening in the world. So whatever you're doing this morning, I hope everything is going well. It's the beginning of the end of June, which is always a thrill. Good morning, says Hede. Fantastic. So the end of June, 30th of June, flaming June in the UK as we call it. And I thought I'd take you on a little walk this morning. It was a fantastic day yesterday. If you joined me at the zoo, as I said, we went to the zoo a little while ago, a few weeks ago when it first opened, and I thought we should have a look and see how things had changed here in London. And what's great about this sort of stuff is we're seeing firsthand exactly what's going on in the world, and we can cut through all the media. This is my view of a morning as you walk with me. We can cut through all of the different media side, and we can have a look and see what might make sense from a practical point of view. And the practical point of view is, firsthand, we're seeing that whilst London may be opening up, the reality is that people are not going out so much at the moment. I always show you the map because that gives you a little bit of positioning as to where we might be. And if you have a look, this is Regent's Park, and we can zoom in very helpfully. You are here, just by the park offices. The Rose Garden itself is closed at the moment. It gets opened up around this sort of time, so we'll be some of the first people, as always, to go into that. And it's the same with St John's Lodge, which is always a thrill. What we also found yesterday is I had some great people on the show. We had Tina Muller on the show from Denmark, and she's a chocolatier and a real artist. So for many years she worked as a chocolatier, and she talked about her life there. She's also a fantastic artist, and her ability to capture not just the image but also the emotion of a particular subject is superb. So we had a look at that sort of side, and what I thought was incredible as they did that is she's also in her later years become a Bee Gees fan, which is funny. She went through a particularly difficult stage and she discovered the Bee Gees and all of their fantastic music. And we had her on the show yesterday. I had her on the show as my wonderful guest. Morning, Daryl. Morning, Hide. Morning, Kylie. Kylie always joins us from LA, where she is at the moment. So lovely to see you. And you're in good company here. You're joining me right in the heart of London as we start our day. This is St John's Lodge, which I've taken to previously. And it's a glorious Nash building. And what I love about the sound of summer is the crunch. And may that be the only crunch that you have this morning. We're walking along the park, as is my usual way of doing things, and just exploring what's going on in these wonderful times. And what's rather fun at this time is just seeing how many people... I always call this section is the Ian Simon Show, the Ian Simon Show. And I thought that would be a very easy anagram for you clever folks out there. And so far I've had zillions of suggestions and nobody's got it. So for you who are anagram people, send me your answers. You can put them in the comments below. It's the Ian Simon Show is what we call this early morning session, with me walking around the park and giving you a little taste of what London's going to be like this morning. Over on the other side of the road we have the theatre, and we've been talking to a lot of people about what's going to happen about opening up the theatre. And the reality is they're still working out social distancing, but around the world, it's not the difficulty with social distancing, even if it's 1 metre, is most theatres need 80% capacity filled in order for it to make financial sense. But if it does open, the 2021 season, when people are focusing, 101 Dalmatians, Romeo and Juliet, Carousel and Dragons and Mythical Beasts. And this is just by St Mary's Gardens. It's the Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, and it is a glorious place to see any show, whatever that show may be, because you're doing it in the great outdoors, and they were always open, come rain or shine. If it is too wet, then they might postpone, but a little drizzle and they'll still keep going, which is fantastic. That's very stoic, very British, as we say, which is always a thrill. So yesterday we had Tina Muller. I was telling you, Tina Muller, a Bee Gees fan in later life, but a superbly talented artist, and she was talking about her life as a chocolatier. Chocolatiers are always my favourite people, because you not only have a wonderful talent, but you can help them in the development and sampling of their wonderful creations. And I was delighted to talk to her. And we also saw some of her fantastic artwork. So you can look at that inside, and it is absolutely superb. So I can take you in here. This is the Regent's Park is now open. No skating and no cycling. You know, I'm always tempted to do a bit of skating. You know me, always a thrill. So here we are, let me show you the back. So this is where we are. We're going to go for a little bit of a walk around the centre bit of the park, and I'll show you the outside of the zoo, which is good. We are here, as you can see, and we've just been around this bit of the park, and we're going to make our way into the main bit of the park, through the hub, and just up to the Canal, where we've had a riverboat special. All the people on boats, I love being on the water. The great thing about being on the water, it does feel very comforting. I don't know if you're water people, but I love being by the seaside. I do like to be beside the seaside. I like to be beside the sea. And I went down the weekend down to see my mother, now that we're easing up on some of the restrictions, but obviously socially distancing, abiding by all those very important rules. And it was wonderful. It's a very, very blustery day, as you can hear on the video. But the other thing which you'll notice is that, again, in spite of all the reports of it being incredibly crowded, there was nobody there. And that was really quite extraordinary. If you're joining me now, and it's lovely to see all of you around the world, thank you so much for joining me. We're live at 5 today, a little bit earlier for you, because I fancied getting up early. The world has got a lot to offer at the last day of June, and live at 5 on what I'm calling the Ian Simon Show. And I thought, as I said, anagram lovers everywhere would be able to turn around and say, the Ian Simon Show, we know what he's on about. And they were going to drop that into the comments. But so far, nobody has solved the anagram. And I find that extraordinary. Ian Simon, come on, Ian Simon Show at 5 in the morning. It's got to be good. So, don't forget, if you haven't tuned in to the main channel, we've been recording lots of brilliant people around the world, the great, the good, the rich, the famous, and everyday heroes, talking about their life in lockdown. And always wonderful to see Paul Gordon's up and about, and he's at him already. There's no stopping that there, Paul Gordon. There he is, always fantastic stuff. And what's great about having you here so early is that we can share so many wonderful things. And I do love London waking up. These are my favourites. These are the sounds of summer for me, the wood pigeons. Because what they do, there we go, a bit of action for you, we love a bit of action. But the wood pigeons, for me, it's always a thrill that they make that sort of wonderful wooing noise of the things. What's wrong with the Witterings? The Witterings is where I grew up, Paul Gordon. Bracklesham Bay, where my mother lived, and for 40 years of my 27 years on this planet, I basically went down to the Witterings, and it was glorious. I love the Witterings. I used to, one of my first jobs was we used to have lots of horses when I was growing up. We had 18 horses, can you believe, 18 horses. And I had a donkey called Jet, another donkey called Simon, which is for the anagram lovers everywhere. I say that's the name of the show this time in the morning, the Ian Simon Show. And so far, I am astounded. Lots and lots and lots of guesses. You're all writing into me to claim that wonderful prize. But the Ian Simon Show, and nobody's got it. It's an anagram, Ian Simon. I sort of wake up in my gloriously twisted mind and work out these wonderful things. I thought live at 5, only because I like the numbers, and you know me and my numbers, but also an anagram, the Ian Simon Show. Here's exactly, I grew up for many years of my life before going off to boarding school, and so I popped down at the weekend to see my mum, who's 90, can you believe, 90 years old, my mother, and she is wonderful. It's great to see her. Morning, Ian, nice to see you, thank you very much for joining us. We have people already here from Australia, from Zambia. Yesterday I was talking to people in Denmark. We had Tina Muller on the show, and Tina was telling me about her life as a chocolatier. Always my favourite with my birthday coming up. I do act surprised, but chocolates never go amiss. That's why I'm so slender. It's always a thrill. I think you can wear them off, can't you? Which is always through that sort of stuff. Paul Gordon's done gigs. Paul Gordon's done gigs everywhere. What I love about this is every guest I've ever had on, from Kylie to royalty, to people around the world, to Zambia, there isn't a dark corner, a dark crevice anywhere in the world where Paul Gordon hasn't said, take a card. And every guest I have on, he says, do remind them when you speak to them that they once had a card trick from me. And they bow down and say, oh, do you know that Paul Gordon? It's incredible. And that's what we love about it, is that Paul is known throughout the world, not just for his modesty, but for the fact that if you haven't had the joy of playing with Paul Gordon and being asked to pick a card, you have not lived. And so do look back at those glorious episodes. We've had lots of them. Well, I'll tell you what, we should get him on the show again. Work out something wonderful, Paul, for my birthday. And all of you writing in saying, when's my birthday? Because I know you want to know. Every year, just to make it easy to remember, I have it on the same day. Can you believe that? Every year on the same day. And the reality is, 7th of the 7th, 7-7, all the lucky sevens, I celebrate my birthday. Well, I celebrate my birthday 365 days of the year, 300, but it's always a thrill. So yes, birthday preparations underway, and thank you so much. People are sending me stuff. God, how lucky am I? So we love it. So yes, I went down to the Witterings, and Paul Paul Cunningham. How are you, Paul? Paul's all the way up in up there in near Darlington, and yes, infamous is certainly the name. And infamy, they've all got an infamy. It's always a thrill. So Paul's a great chap, and with his son James and Julie and everything, absolutely wonderful. I met them, I had the joy of meeting them when I was booking various acts for the glorious Rockcliffe Hall. And Rockcliffe Hall is a stunning place. If you haven't gone and visited it yet, do get a chance. And became great chums with Paul, who does this fantastic charity called the JPC Charity, raising money and awareness for his wonderful cause. And do check it out. It is truly, people use the word inspirational too much. It's rather like, in this time, we use the word unprecedented. An unprecedented use of the word unprecedented. But Paul is one of life's superheroes, and James has just celebrated a birthday as well. I had my birthday, and it was only about this time last year. We did what was called the JPC ball, and for that we were raising money and awareness, and I took up some artists. We had Marty Pello, the wonderful Marty Pello. I took him up, and we previously had wonderful people like Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet, and Heather Small, and Clive from Doctor and the Medics. And I supplied lots of the entertainment, the big marquee shows. I would supply them and bring a lot of my mates who are superb superstars, and they would come along. And Paul and James and Julie raise a lot of money for this fantastic thing called JPC Farm. Do check it out. What they do is superb. But they teasingly have been preparing fantastic food. So I always see their Sunday lunch, and even a takeaway lunch, you can have a look at that sort of side. And it is really quite glorious, but it's a little bit far to travel down to London. But do check it out. Paul, it's lovely to have you here on the show. Paul Gordon, how old? Come on, be honest. Well, I'll tell you what, that could be another competition, as the other one was so successful about the Ian Simon show and the anagram. You can guess how old I am. There you go. On the 7th of July, I'll be having another birthday, and whoever gets the right answer can, I'll save you a slice of cake. How does that sound? We always love that. So how old am I? Oh, that's a good thing. I can give you a clue to make it easy, that I will be celebrating a particular anniversary of my 21st birthday. So it will be an anniversary of my 21st birthday, which should be enough of a clue for most people. So do join me, and we will party. We party every day. So as I say, normally 365 days a year. This year, because it's so special, we're going to do it 366 every single day, every nanosecond. We are celebrating in style. I'm taking you through the foresty bit now, and you can have a look as you're joining us here live in Regent's Park. And this is where I took you yesterday. So everybody who joined me yesterday, thank you so much for that. That was superb. But they haven't woken up yet, which is not surprising really, because I started a little bit earlier. We started at 5. We were live at 5. And this is the outside of the zoo. And you can have a look in here. Everybody is actually fast asleep. But I took you here yesterday, and we noticed that a lot of the crowds are 61. 61? Yeah, right. God, yeah, not even the year I was born, much younger than that, significantly younger. It's only because I've had Paul Gordon on the show so often that I look as though I'm much older than my years. As many magicians would say, for those who'd remembered of a certain era, I had a very tough paper round. That's why we look so young. That's interesting because the camels are not even out yet. So normally I was going to show you this glorious moment here. Here we are, we're at the zoo. I brought you nice and early to the zoo, and they're still asleep. Good heavens, that'll give you the hump. Behind over there we have the tigers. The tiger, didn't see him there yesterday either. And the zoo is about as crowded as the zoo normally is. So you're looking straight ahead at the camel enclosure, but the camels haven't been let out yet. And those of you joining me, you're joining me here in the glorious Regent's Park on the end of flaming June. And they say it's been one of the hottest Junes on record, or at least one of the days was. You always wonder about these records. I mean, they're obviously not very good, these records, because how many times have you been told that this is the hottest or the coldest or the wettest or the most exciting? Everybody works in extremes, don't they? And unless you work on the basis that it's the hottest or the coldest or the wettest, it doesn't seem to get the headlines. But anyway, this is the earliest I've taken you on a 6 o'clock walk at 5 o'clock. We'll work on that headline somewhere. So we're live from 5 right here on Octopus TV, and it's a joy to have you along this fantastic morning. And I started life with an anagram, which has been going on for 3 days now, and lots of people have sent in suggestions, so thank you for those. And I'm delighted to tell you that all of the suggestions, each and every one, is completely wrong. It's an anagram. The Ian Simon Show. The Ian Simon. Let me know the solution to that as we walk along here. Over there you'll see that's where the lions are normally up, but they're having a bit of a lion in. See what I did there? I thank you all. It's all good. So the lion, not even the lions are up at this time. You know, I normally, one thing we can hear, and I live just down there, the southern bit of the park, and normally we are woken up by fantastic cry of these monkeys, which you can hear for actually miles and miles. Well, I say it's fantastic. I'm sure if I lived next door to it, I wouldn't think it was particularly fantastic. Ah, look, Paul Gordon said, look at him with his gags from the 70s. Bernard Manning's alive and well, and Paul Gordon knew a very hot June years ago. I thank you. Always a thrill. No, we love it. We should, I'll tell you what, we should get Paul back on the show. It's been a little while, hasn't it? And it's always a thrill. We had Wayne Fox on the show yesterday, and we discovered that not only is he a magician, I mean, lots of common interest and love of magic, but such a diverse bunch of people, that they all have their own little sidelines, own little bit on the side for a hobby. And his is very much a artwork, and we both discovered that we love the artwork of Ronnie Wood. And I had the joy of going down to one of Ronnie's gallery openings with Ronnie. There's only like 20 of us down in Cannes, and Ronnie spoke so passionately about his artwork, even though he's in a tiddly group you may have heard of, called the Rolling Stones. He is really passionate about his art, and what I love about it, what I genuinely love, is that when their hobbies turn into their business, that is when you say you'll never do a day's work in your life, because everybody just has such a thrilling time doing it, which is great. So we had Wayne on, had a good chat with him, and because he has so much more to tell, he'll be back as well. So we talked about Darren's artwork, we talked about cats, because he's into his cats as well. And in addition to that, afterwards, I had lots of interviews yesterday. We had Tina Muller, and she's all the way over in Denmark. And Tina was telling me about how she spent her life as a chocolatier. And as a chocolatier, what we noticed is the little tips that they have. I've had a few chocolatiers on, you realise I'm obviously surrounding myself with people who will give me appropriate presents for my birthday, so that's what we do. All my guests now until the 7th of July will be those who give me suitable presents, so that's it, you know. The days of product placement, I don't mind about that sort of stuff. It's always a thrill. So we have the chocolatier, and she was giving us fantastic tips on how you determine the best chocolate, what sort of makes sense, how you design it, because it's not just obviously about the taste and how good chocolate is. This is wonderful. We had Teo Philippe spoke to me in Corsica, and he was telling me about how wonderful red wine is for you. You know, this is nothing but greatness. Now talk about Tina. I was telling everybody, Tina, thank you for joining us. I love it when you join us. Tina was on the show yesterday. I was just telling everybody, Tina, that we spoke about your fantastic life and how one of the most famous chocolatiers in Denmark, and how I always have a chocolatier or somebody appropriate with my birthday coming up on the 7th of July, so appropriate presents. So we talk about the glorious life as a chocolatier, who then discovered Bee Gees quite late in life, in 2015, and she discovered and fell in love with the music of the Bee Gees, which became the soundtrack of her life. And a fantastic interview. Do go and check that out, because we also then had a look at some of the most glorious artwork. And Tina is incredibly talented. Go and look at the video. I put in all the links to her Instagram account and Facebook pages and things like that. But absolutely stunning. And we're very lucky because Tina came over last year when RJ and I were putting on various shows with KTT Legacy. And what we did, we had a look at bringing people over, bringing the music of the Bee Gees to a new generation. And I always say that the sound of the Bee Gees, it is the soundtrack to everybody's life. And being the soundtrack to everybody's life, I think you should be accompanied, shouldn't you, by music everywhere. What I do of a morning, even though I'm a fantastic music fan, and music plays a very important part of my life, some of the best things and the best soundtrack at this time of the day is actually the bird song. And nature's soundtrack is absolutely superb. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to Tina's interview and a little chat with me, it was lovely catching up with her. We'll get Tina back and we'll talk more about her artwork, we'll talk more about her love of the Bee Gees, and we'll talk more about chocolate, because talking about chocolate is everybody's favourite thing to do. And Tina was making all these wonderful shapes and things, not only getting the finest chocolate, but carving it with an artist's skill into something which is unprecedented. And what I also love, talking about unprecedented and the unprecedented use of the word unprecedented, what I also love is that Marion has been a passionate supporter of the Bee Gees, all things Bee Gees, including the fan club. And we've had some wonderful times with Marion, and always breaking exclusively the various news and things like that. Those of you who joined me on the zoo yesterday, we're just outside the zoo now. This is the penguin enclosure. You can hear the general buzz. There's a couple of penguins right over there in the back. You can just about make them out, starting their morning. And they always start their day with their usual breakfast. A nice bit of fish. Bit of variety for them, bit of fish, keep it all going. So if you're just joining us, good morning to you. It's Andrew Eborn here, live at 5 this morning. And the anagram, in spite of lots of people writing in and solving it, and some great suggestions, anagrams of my name, I liked all of those, very good. The anagram to solve is Ian Simon. I call it the Ian Simon Show. And the anagram of Ian Simon and what that means. Do let me know. So to deal with all sorts of things at the moment, don't forget I'm doing lots of new interviews today. We've got a fantastic new chef piece where we have the 5-star chefs from around the world who are teaching us how to cook. And the great thing is these are some of the greatest, most talented people in the world who have a little bit of time on their hands until things get back to normal. So they've all been coming on the show and they've been sharing their recipes, they've been sharing their tips. They've been sharing all sorts of glorious things to keep us busy and to help us learn new skills. And the new skills that we learn, we are hopefully translating in this extraordinary time to work out how, when we come out of this, we're going to be in a much better place. And I genuinely hope that whatever we're doing and whatever you're doing anywhere in the world, that one of the things that you're taking comfort from is the fact that we are able to look at new ways of not only interacting with each other, but also new appreciation for the things, morning Adam, for the things that we've taken for granted for so long. And what I love is that we are starting to explore that. The whole idea about collaboration and what we might do to make that make sense really, really appeals. And I think collaboration is key, because together, that's how we can make things happen. And you're joining me live at 5, and this is what I love. So thank you very much. A very good morning to you on my morning walk. This is down by Regent's Canal, and I thought I'd just take you a little bit earlier this morning on what I call the Ian Simon Show, my anagram for the Ian Simon Show. Behind me you can see this is on the way to Camden. I normally start up here, but I'll take you down on the canal for a couple more minutes, because it's always a thrill to walk along the Regent's Canal. And previously people have been asking about how they can do lots of the different things that we scratch the surface on. Morning! We've got Enrique, nice to see you. And we're waving at everybody this morning. So this is where we are in Regent's Park, just to show you on the map. So those of you who come and visit London, you're joining me on my early morning walk, and you are here. So St Mark's Bridge by St Mark's Church. And St Mark's Church is a lovely building over to my left, and you can see that the clock, more fake news, this clock I can tell you is right twice a day. It's 1 minute past 12, 1 to 1, which is a fantastic clue as to what we're doing at the moment and how the one-to-ones are working so well. But that's St Mark's Church, and it's a fantastic old church. And again, if you get a chance just to wander around London, that's the marvellous thing about doing things on foot, because you will see that all of these different places are easily accessible, and people are worried about financial things, people are worried about what's going to happen in the future. Well, I can tell you is that there is so much that can be done just on your trot. It doesn't cost you anything at all to walk around London, to sample the best of the best. So when you do come here, do have a look down. From what I could hear, it sounds as though the monkeys are now waking up. You can hear the little screech in the background. I'm going to take you down the towpath, and just to remind you of a few things while we are here, is that don't forget to subscribe to Octopus TV. It's completely free, hurrah! So you can go over to YouTube and subscribe to Octopus TV. Also follow us on Facebook and on Daily Motion. And we're also looking at a number of different channels. So people have been writing in, I can tell you it's rather exciting actually. A number of traditional broadcasters have said they'd love to do the Andrew Eborn show, so we're in discussions about that as well, and we will be bringing more of our fantastic guests and make that make sense. If you'd like to be on the show, do drop me a line. Write to me at enn@octopustv.com and tell us a bit about yourself. Send us a link, or if you've got any suggestions for any guests you think might be appropriate. I would love to have them. We've had everybody from every walk of life, from the rich and famous, from the rich and to everyday folk. And what I love about it is seeing that amazing diversity, and we get to love all the different people in this world, and the more we can understand different people, and the more that we can have a little peek into their lives, I think the better we are ourselves. We can make our own entertainment, and the reality is that people have fascinating lives. And the one thing I always said when I was little, people used to say to me, and I'm sure they've said it to you, oh, I wish I did that when I was your age. Well, the reality is you can. And what I try and do is that every day try something new every day, speak to different people, see what life is about, see how you can make a difference. I ask all of my guests about how they would like to be remembered, and the answers are fascinating. And what I would suggest is that anybody who is thinking about that and wants to come on the show, it's a question that normally takes everybody by surprise, which I like, and I'll always come up with something which takes people by surprise. But thinking about how you'd like to be remembered, even though hopefully we've got a little while longer, we never know, but a little while longer, it's just asking people about that. It makes you think about your own lives and what difference you'd like to make, making sure you don't look back with regrets, because regrets don't really achieve anything. You can do today what should be done, and that to me is one of the most glorious things about this, is that we have the opportunity to make a difference. We have the opportunity to share our experiences of life, and we have the opportunity to make things make sense. So if you've got any suggestions for guests, or you'd like to come on the show yourself, do drop me a line at Andrew Eborn, and that's ENN at octopustv.com. You're joining me on my morning walk live at 5 today, nice and bright and breezy. And it's what I've called the Ian Simon Show. And I did that as an anagram because I knew all you clever people would solve it instantly. But nobody, lots of people have written in, and they've all given me wonderful anagrams of my name, which is fantastic. But Ian Simon, it's an anagram. And I thought it'd be quite appropriate to work out what might make sense on that sort of basis. But if you have joined me today, thank you so much. I'm right at the back of the zoo, and this is where I took you yesterday at 10:10. I'm funny about my numbers. You'll realise I'm always funny about my numbers. And I can tell you that delighted that my book, my latest publication, the Andrew Eborn Book of Failure, has just about been released. It's coming up on my birthday, on the 7th of the 7th. It's going to be released. It's got 111 pages, 111. And the reason for that is to celebrate that we always shine a spotlight on success, but very rarely look at the failures that led to that success. So what I've been doing for a number of years now is writing a regular column in some of the finest publications in the world. I write for them as well. I write, I read, I colour, I do everything. Just keep it all going. Multimedia, that's what they call it. So I've been writing this column for a number of years, a number of publications, about failure, and looking at some of the great failures that we've had in the world, recognising that failure is a really important part of success. And I always say, and came up with a phrase that if invention is the mother of necessity, then failure is the father of success. And I do need and believe we need to look at failures, because it's by those failures that we learn and we can improve in other bits and pieces. So that's coming out on the 7th of July. It will be my birthday. We're going to celebrate in style as we always do. But every day, as I say, is absolutely stunning. And what I love about living in London is that together we can really make a stunning difference. And I love the waterways, Tina, as well. And it is wonderful. I was saying earlier, if you've just joined us from around the world, it's lovely to see so many people. I can see people in Australia, I can see people in South Korea, I can see people in Japan, we've got people all throughout Europe. You know, there isn't a continent that we haven't reached. And those of you who want to tune in, go and have a look. We'll be releasing it on Octopus today. I always give my guests first option to release their own videos. So Tina's released her video, and I'll be releasing that this morning. A fascinating interview with somebody who came to the Bee Gees quite late in 2015 and realised that they are the soundtrack of her life. But talking about her fantastic life as a chocolatier, and we always love chocolatiers. And we love chocolatiers who can mould chocolate into the shape of pelicans. I think that's always important. Everywhere we went, when we went to the zoo yesterday, we saw some pelicans. And what I loved about those particular pelicans is they were pink pelicans. And the reason they were pink pelicans is because they'd been eating the food which otherwise belongs to the flamingos. And that's where the flamingos and the ibis and many other things get their glorious colour. and the glorious colour comes from the food that they eat. So if you want to look as though you've been on holiday somewhere, you want to have a tan, then I guess if you eat lots of carrots, or you eat lots of orange things, then you'll realise that it's a good way of giving you that healthy glow, which is always a thrill. So these are the waterways, absolutely stunning here of a morning. You're joining me at the end of June. It has been so wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining me nice and bright and breezy here, live at 5. I started nice and early today, but we will go to the regular channels now. Go and have a look, subscribe to Octopus TV, stalk me on Twitter at Andrew Eborn, at Octopus TV, join me on Daily Motion and on all of the other traditional platforms around the world. But for now, be good, be safe, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.